Right, the big question today, can we actually save this Alfa interior? There are loads of YouTube videos that make it look so easy. Bit of a clean, scuff, dye, job done. But I am very skeptical. So today I'll be putting it to the test on this 50-year-old Alfa interior, 40 years of which sat in the barn. And if it works, well, we'll save £1,000. If it doesn't, well, I'll be replacing it. But I'll give you full transparency into what we've done and how it's come out. And if you're new to the channel and wondering what on earth we're doing, well, I found this 1971 Alfa Romeo 1750 in a barn where it had been parked since 1986. It had sat there for almost 40 years. We pulled it out, brought it home, gave it a proper clean, and then began the journey of bringing it back to life. And I stripped the car down, including the full interior. Now, some background is that when this car left the factory, it had a black interior, and that's been confirmed in its heritage certificate. But I reckon that in 1979, this car was in an accident in its front left side. And the color was changed from yellow to maroon, and that's when they upgraded or updated this interior. Now, the material and patterns look spot on Alfa. And I think they are pretty much original Alfa materials because all of the materials used to fix the car at the time were original Alfa. And they still have the tags. Now, here's the twist. Yes, it's old, but it's in shockingly good condition. There's no rips, there's no tears, it's not falling apart. And it did 6 years of use, I think, before it was parked up. And then decades in the barn, in the dark. And it hasn't crumbled. It hasn't turned into dust, it's not dried out, no cracks. So this is officially an experiment. Do these restorations really work? Now, as I said, I've budgeted for a new interior. So if it does work and I can save this, well, it's over £1,000 in my pocket. That'll be great, but I'm skeptical and I'm going to give you the full verdict. So as I said, I think we're starting with a really good base here. There isn't even a mark on the piping, and not a single stitch has pulled. So let's give this our best shot. And in order to make sure I'm not wasting my time, I decided to start with just one seat and see how it comes out. I went straight for the big one, the rear bench seat, which is actually in two halves, the bottom cushion and the backrest. I started by giving it a proper clean. First, a wipe down with vinyl cleaner to get all the loose dust off. Then I used a drill to get into every crease and corner, making sure all the dirt, dust, and decades of grime were lifted out. And honestly, it came off surprisingly easily. I repeated the exact same process on the other half of the bench, and once both pieces were clean, I left them to dry. And as you can see from the before and after clips, they've come out really well. The vinyl looks original, the grain is intact, and there's nothing cracking or any stiffness at all. And after giving them a closer inspection, I'm actually really happy. The condition is far better than I expected for something that had been sitting untouched for so long. So with that done, I'm confident to move to the next step of bringing this old Alfa interior back to life. And that second clean is exactly the same process, but this time I'm using a window cleaner to remove any remaining residue so the new dye will actually stick. So on goes the window cleaner, then a good scrub with a brush to get into all the cracks, and finally the drill with a brush attachment to make sure the surface is perfectly clean. And the final step, just to make absolutely sure everything is properly clean, is to wipe the whole seat down with acetone. That removes any last bit of residue. Then I blow it all out in the hard to reach areas with the air hose, and after that leave it to dry for a few hours. So here we go, the big moment. Does this actually work, applying black dye to the seats? Now they say going from a light color to black is the easiest way to get good results. So that gave me a bit of confidence going into this. Now I've chosen a product that gets really good reviews, made by Rust-Oleum. This isn't sponsored, by the way, and apparently it's incredibly hard wearing. According to the reviews, it doesn't rub off on your clothes, it doesn't chip, and once it's cured, it's basically part of the vinyl. The only thing you need is patience, because you have to wait 24 hours between coats. So on goes coat number 1, and honestly the coverage is really good straight away. Even after the first pass, I'm pretty happy with how it looked. The vinyl takes the dye really nicely, and you start seeing the transformation immediately. And after letting that dry for 24 hours, it was time for coat number 2. And this is where it really starts to even out and look really good. Now the finish in person is more of a satin matte sheen, and you'll notice that on camera it tends to pick up a bit more of a gloss than is actually there. In real life it's definitely more matte once it dries. But either way, the result is miles better than what we started with. Once I had the first 2 coats on, I was happy with the colour, so I moved straight on to coat number 3. After that, it was time for the most important step, the protective finish. I'm using a product called Leather Finish from Furniture Clinic. Not sponsored, I just like it. This stuff has a satin look and texture that I'm going for, but more importantly, it seals the vinyl. It's a hard-wearing top coat that keeps the colour from wearing off. It's soft, silky, scuff resistant, and extremely flexible. I apply 3 coats of the leather finish. After each coat, I use a hairdryer to help it cure properly. It only takes a minute or 2, but once all 3 layers are on, the vinyl looks fantastic. With the back done, I'm happy to move on to the base. And it's exactly the same process. 3 coats, nice and even, and then a full 24 hours to dry. As I'm working through it, I have to admit, I'm starting to think this might actually work. The colour's going down smoothly, the finish is looking consistent, and seeing both pieces come together is giving me a lot of confidence in the final result. At this stage, I loosely fitted the seats back into the car, and they look good. I've got my 1969 Mark I with a replacement interior parked next to it, and honestly when you compare the two, the finish is surprisingly similar. At this stage, I thought let's take it a step further and tackle the rear parcel shelf. Interestingly, this parcel shelf is still original. The original black vinyl is actually hiding under the newer cover. But because the newer vinyl is in such good condition and it matches the rest of the interior perfectly, I decided not to peel everything back. Instead, I used the original material underneath purely as a reference for color and finish, and carried out the same restoration process on the newer vinyl. And I've got to say, the rear parcel shelf came out really well. So I thought let's move on to the rear panels. I stripped out the ashtrays, gave them the same treatment, put everything back together, and I must say, I'm really happy with this transformation as well. And I must say, after 3 coats of dye, followed by the satin leather finisher, it really does make a huge difference. The finish looks fresh and clean, and I think it's because I started with such good vinyl. It's coming out really well. So, onto the rear wheel arches, and same treatment. At this stage, I had a decision to make. Would I tackle the front seats? They were a lot more work because of the stripping, but they're also in great condition, so I decided to go for it. And when I stripped them down, I discovered the original interior hiding underneath the replacement covers. At first, I was confused by the two-tone design on the covers, but then I realized it was actually an option on the later 2-litre cars. So when the interior was updated in 1979, someone must have decided to modernize in a two-tone look. But because the covers are in such good condition, I gave them the same treatment, 3 coats of dye followed by 3 coats of leather finisher. And honestly, the results surprised me. So, here it is finished. I started with really good vinyl, some of it original Alfa, and there were no cracks or stitching repairs needed. I think the outcome shows that, because it's all really turned out well. I loosely fitted everything back into the car to see how it all looks together. And honestly, compared to the replacement interior in both my GTV Mark I and the Duetto Spider, it's actually not too different at all. And here's the final result. Now, I'll be honest, I was skeptical in the beginning, but this has turned out far better than I expected. But the big question is, will I actually use it? Well, there are definitely some benefits. It's over 50 years old and it's in great condition. Now, some of it is genuine Alfa and it's not reproduction. And it's a lot softer and more pliable than the modern materials, which I actually prefer. And it definitely has that period feel, and that's something you just cannot recreate with modern trim. And of course, there are some disadvantages. Like, I don't know how well this is going to wear over time. And if you're after that brand new perfection, well, this is not it. But I don't have to make that decision just yet. Over the next few months, I'm going to be putting this to the test. And I'm going to be sitting all over it, sliding my jeans up and down, and seeing how well this stuff actually wears. So what do you think I should do? Keep this beautifully restored, mostly original interior, or go ahead and put in a brand new one? As I said, I have budgeted for a brand new interior, but after doing this, it's honestly made me rethink, because I may just be able to use it. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments below. So guys, thanks again for watching another episode of RC Classic Garage. I hope you learned something in that episode, because I certainly did. Please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel. The channel is all about the ownership experience of my classic car collection. And yes, we are making some great progress on the 1750 GTV barn find. In the next episode, I'll probably have something very special to share on the suspension of this car. So please join me next time. Thanks again for watching. Ciao.